Good morning. The webinar is about to start. Please hang in there while all attendees connect. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Cesar Iliano, and I'm the Content Director for BNamericas. As you may know, BNamericas has been conducting industrial surveys since 2011, and year after year, hundreds of executives have been providing us their views on the most important topics in each sector. This year, we were especially interested in knowing how the mining industry has been performing in Latin America after the first impact of the pandemic, and how are miners planning to spend the extra money coming from the higher metal prices. This year, we worked with a group of partners, and we are glad with the results, as they helped us get to more executives throughout the region. We partnered this year with Brazilian Mining Association IBRAM, with Sociedad Nacional de Minería, SONAMI in Chile, with the Instituto de Ingeniero de Minas del Perú, with the Cámara Minera de México, AUSCHAM Argentina, Cámara Argentina de Empresarios Mineros, CSM Minera Lumina Copper Chile, and the Cámara Minera de Minería del Ecuador. Our regional mining editor and managing editor for our research unit, Laura Superno, will be starting our session today showing some of the main findings of our mining survey 2021. She will later hold a conversation with SONAMI's president, Diego Hernández, IBRAM's president, Flavio Pénido, and with Víctor Gómez, president of the Instituto de Ingeniero de Minas del Perú. I'd like to remind all participants that they are in listen-only mode. Questions can be submitted at any time using the chat function on the right side of the screen. Depending on time, we will endeavor to answer your questions at the end of the discussion panel. So, again, thank you for being here today. I leave you with Laura.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Cesar. Good morning to our three panelists. Thank you for joining us, and good morning to everyone who has connected this morning. I also wanted to say a special thank you to everyone listening who did participate in the survey. Before going into the results, I will briefly mention that the survey this year received 222 responses. 32% of the respondents work for a mining operator company, 16% are providers of equipment or maintenance, and another 23% providers of strategic or technical consulting. Those are the main categories of respondents. 37% of our respondents identified themselves as senior management or C-level executives, while 20% are on the commercial side. So we'll go now into the results. First things first, I would say 55% of our survey respondents reported a moderate impact on their activities in 2021 so far due to the pandemic, while 32% said the impact has been big so far this year. We're seeing that capacity is not quite back to 100% at many operations, and there are new waves of infections and slow vaccination in a lot of the region, which means that physical distancing protocols are still necessary. 55% of respondents also said that they expect COVID-19 to continue to moderately impact activities over the coming year, while more than a quarter do expect it to continue to have a big impact on their activities. We do think that moderately lower production at those operations that have not been able to fully ramp up will generally be offset by the higher mineral prices that we're seeing now. So each year we ask respondents what they think mining companies' strategic focus will be for the coming year. And 46% of respondents have said that they think it will be operational optimization, the top priority for mining companies in the near term. Even before the pandemic, optimization was consistently considered to be the main priority in our surveys, and the pandemic appears to have intensified this. Compared with 2020, which are the orange bars in the graph, the 2020 results of the survey, there was less emphasis, somewhat less emphasis on the concept of ramping up the operations that were suspended due to the pandemic, but this is still in second place with 19% of this year's responses. So the idea that organic growth will be miners' main focus over the coming year received 18% of responses, pretty similar to last year's 17% of responses. And we would say that that reflects continued caution as uncertainty about the pandemic and its economic outcomes are now joined by a growing sense of political risk in some of Latin America's main mining markets. The focus on organic growth, pre-pandemic, we had seen gaining traction before the pandemic. Maybe a third of people would say that organic growth would be the top priority, but clearly that mindset has not recovered yet. Thank you. But despite people saying that the focus really will be on optimization, there appears to still be a fairly solid belief that new project activity will increase in the near term. In the comments that were provided to us by survey respondents, the sentiment among those who believe project activity will increase is mainly centered on the higher prices that we're seeing and the outlook of strong demand for minerals. Still, 25% of respondents do believe that new project activity will decrease in the year ahead, and many of those people cited political risk as the reason, which we will discuss in depth later on. And people also cited the continued impacts of the pandemic. This is the same question, will new project activity increase over the next 12 months, but broken down to compare the results from people who work for a mining operator company from those people who belong to the other types of entities represented in the survey. And we saw a lot more optimism about new projects from the non-mining company respondents. 52% of those non-mining company respondents said they think new project activity will accelerate, but only 31% of mining company respondents said so. So there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect about expectations, and we're seeing that greater caution from mining operators themselves, who are the ones who ultimately have to make the decisions about whether new projects will go ahead. So during the first half of 2020, as I'm sure everyone remembers, many mining operators reduced their spending plans for the year as the pandemic started to take effect. So this year we asked survey respondents whether they think the conditions will allow companies to execute their capital spending plans, and 58% said yes. So we see a very positive result there. In general, we have not been seeing any CapEx changes, CapEx guidance changes from what companies announced earlier in the year, which does suggest that firms are probably in a position or feel that they're in a position to weather the impacts of the pandemic and go ahead and execute the spending that they do have planned. Many survey respondents called for mining companies to invest now and take advantage of high metal prices, while others said in the comments that they believe spending will focus mainly on maintenance, optimization, and some brownfield growth projects. We also received many comments regarding caution in spending, due again to political uncertainty among those respondents who said that they're not sure whether or not spending will be executed successfully. Some people also mentioned possible price volatility and concern over economic reactivation. So while we just saw that 58% think that spending plans will be successfully executed, when we asked people about their spending plans, only 34% of the total respondents said that their companies plan to increase spending in 2021, while 44% said there would be no change in their spending levels. So if we can hop to the next slide, this is a question where we particularly like to, again, separate the mining operator respondents from the other types of entities in the survey. And what we noticed this year is the mining companies have a higher percentage of respondents saying that they're unsure whether their company's spending would increase. In a separate question, we also asked respondents whether their companies plan to raise capital in the year ahead, and we saw a similar picture, a higher rate of those unsure answers among the mining operators. We think this is a reflection of the uncertain operating environment facing mining companies who do have to make those project decisions, and we think many are choosing to wait and see before making these decisions. So looking at plans for decarbonization and digitalization spending, considering the very fast growing emphasis being placed nowadays on mining's role in decarbonization, we were pretty surprised to see that only 37% of the total respondents to the survey said that their companies plan to increase the resources allocated to greenhouse gas reduction. And when we looked at just the mining companies, it was even a little bit less. 32% of respondents plan to increase that spending. 41% of the overall respondents did say spending levels will stay steady. And we can say, when we look back to last year's survey results, the majority of respondents, 70%, said that their budgets for reducing emissions would not be impacted by the pandemic crisis. So at least we can say that this year's spending plans are compared to what is probably a relatively solid base. It's not that this decarbonization spending suffered a lot last year and now is staying at that low level. No, most people were maintaining or increasing budgets even last year. It does appear that digitalization budgets will get a bigger boost, 62% planning to increase spending versus last year 37% said they would increase spending. We see two main drivers for this, the strong focus again on operational optimization, which in many cases involves digitalization, and also the pandemic having really demonstrated to people the feasibility and the benefits of remote operations. So we asked survey respondents also what they see as the biggest threat to the mining sector in Latin America for the next 12 months. 45% of people said political or legal uncertainty. Another 30% said they think the top threat is increased country risk or resource nationalism. So if we add the answers, we're looking at 3/4 of survey respondents seeing these related issues as the biggest concern. The results are a pretty big change from the 2020 survey, which is compared here on the graph in the orange bars, when it was a combined 38% of people that saw political, legal uncertainty, country risk, and resource nationalism as the main threat to the sector's post-pandemic recovery. At that time, almost 1/3 of respondents saw future waves of pandemic as the biggest threat. And you can see on this chart that that worry has diminished considerably. As to why political risk has increased so much as a concern, you know, we're seeing high metal prices drawing attention to the industry at a time when governments are financially weakened from the pandemic and also facing growing demands for services and for equality from their populations. In some countries, these demands were already being discussed before the pandemic, and the pandemic has really made the situation more extreme and more urgent. So we're seeing now government proposals to raise taxes on the mining sector or to take greater control of the sector being discussed across much of Latin America. And there are some political shifts to the left happening. There are worrying players in the mining industry. So the industry naturally is on high alert, and the response is to intensify the focus on optimization and exercise caution regarding new project decisions, which is what we saw in the previous results. So finally, we've asked our survey respondents every year for the last decade which country they see as the best for mining investment. Chile this year has kept its place in the survey as the top choice, despite some truly major noise regarding the writing of a new constitution, a proposed new royalty, a significantly large new royalty, and upcoming presidential elections in which we're seeing a Communist Party candidate as a serious contender for the first time in many years. Many respondents, however, commented that Chile offers the most stable investment climate in Latin America. Some of those people saying that this is simply in relation to its neighbors, Chile being the best in the region, but not necessarily the best in the world. We can see here that Brazil has tied for second place with Ecuador as the best place for mining investment, according to our survey respondents. Brazil is also experiencing pressure towards high taxes and changing regulation for miners. We recently saw the state of Pará, which has a lot of iron ore production, increasing its local royalty charges. And last month in June, lawmakers said they would present a proposal for a totally new mining code by September, which is a pretty short time frame. But these motions have come about really only recently, and many survey respondents also said they feel Brazil offers stability. We see Ecuador as a bright spot in terms of the mining investment climate in Latin America. Right-leaning Guillermo Lasso won the presidency earlier this year, and miners are hopeful. The country has been carefully putting together its mining frameworks for several years, and we believe is in a good position to attract investment. Worrying is Peru's decline in favor, as you can see very clearly on the chart. We see this as directly related to the recent elections in which the Marxist candidate Pedro Castillo has apparently won by a very tiny margin, though the results have not yet been certified, and that in itself is creating a little bit of instability or uncertainty. Castillo's arrival has created a huge amount of uncertainty, despite Peru's solid institutional and legal framework for mining. So we see that as driving this change in the survey results. So that concludes the overview of the survey results, and I would like to invite our panelists now to turn on their microphones and cameras for our discussion. Good morning, Diego. Good morning, Flavio. Good morning, Victor. Thank you very much to each of you for joining us today. Looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you very much, Laura. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good morning.
So there are a lot of topics in the survey, and I think the first thing we're going to have to discuss is the issue of stability, because that's going to be the backdrop for everything else. I'd like to ask each of you, what is the mood among mining companies in each of your countries in sense of stability, and what could be coming in terms of discussions around mining taxation or mining legal framework, with in Chile, of course, the Constituyente process. In Peru, we have a new president, and Flavio, in Brazil, we're seeing some proposals for changes, as I mentioned. So perhaps, I don't know if anybody in particular would like to start. Perhaps Diego can tell us about what the mood is among miners in Chile in this sense.
Well, we have been since October 2019. We had a social unrest, and then COVID-19 since March last year. Then it has been a difficult period. The way to manage this social unrest was to write a new constitution, and we are on that process. In theory, they have 12 months to do it, and they started last Sunday. And during all this period, well, a lot of old ideas come back, particularly natural resource nationalism. And I think that it's a period where we are not sure what will be the final end of this. Then I think that in general, it's more a little like wait and see. Meantime, we have a new bill of law for a new royalty that started on the lower chamber, and they approved that bill of law. But it's an ad valorem royalty, very bad for the industry and for the country, because certainly if applied like it is, probably half of the mines, not half of the production, half of the mines, copper mines, will be out of business. But now it went to the Senate, and at the Senate we see that there is more rationale, and we have been able to discuss that, and we are optimistic that will end with a reasonable royalty. But still, we need to wait. Then, as a result of that, of course, investment, stay in business investment continues, and the projects that are in execution continue, but new projects not necessary.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Can we hear Victor, perhaps? What's your take on what's happening in Peru? What is the climate like there, the sentiment among operators and providers in Peru?
Yeah, definitely in Peru we are facing political uncertainty because the outcome of our general election is still pending. The runoff was held on June the 6th, month ago, and the results were so tight that the electoral authority is still examining some legal challenges. So that's definitely a political uncertainty. But in terms of the mood, as you know, it's very difficult to express a comment on behalf of the whole mining industry. But my personal view is the mood among mining companies, it's one of attentive calm, which means that we are not excited. But as a mining industry, we maintain our long-term and a strong commitment to the country and people. It's as you know, it's a business with a long-term perspective. We know these kind of uncertainties generated by political in the political arena, but we expect that in the coming days, after the new government will be put in place, we will open an open discussion regarding the mining industry, and we expect as the best outcome is to recognize that the mining industry, in our case in Peru, it's an economic pillar, which means that the mining industry deserves to be part of a long-term strategy for the development of our country. So we are also, as Diego said, see and wait what's happening in the country.
Yes, very much what we're seeing with the survey results. And, you know, I agree with this idea that the countries need to really balance the need to have mining investment with the need to perceive benefits from mining investment and make sure there's a distribution there, which obviously there is already, but it's being looked at again. Flavio, can you please tell us, in Brazil, we've seen Pará state go ahead and increase a local royalty, and there's a discussion in the lower house of Congress for a new mining code. What are your thoughts on these movements and their impact on the investment climate for mining?
Okay, Laura, thank you very much for your invitation. Even though we have these 2 points that you said, the first one is an increase in the tax in the state of Pará. We believe that conversations are taking along, and it will be in good sense, it will be resolved. And also the rumors that new mining legislation, we are following this very close, and I believe that on one point or another could be adopted for a new reality, but it will not make problem to the investors in Brazil. We do not see a scenario of political or legal uncertainty in Brazil. The institutions are operating normally. Democracy is preserved all the time. Mining companies have increased their investment prospects in Brazil for periods of 5 years. According to the survey that we have, the studies indicate investment of $38 billion for the period of 2021 and 2025, which is a very expressive amount. On the regulatory issue, every cycle of high commodities, the National Congress in Brazil proposed changes in legislation. As I said, it is the bank continuous work to defend the interests of maintaining legal securities. And the Brazilian mineral sector believes that in Brazil, ability to maintain an enabling environment for the developing of responsible mining.
I heard you say, Flavio, and I agree, and we're seeing the same thing, that each time we have a high metal price cycle, we see attention coming to the mining industry from lawmakers, from society, thinking that mining should be contributing more. What is the role that the mining industry needs to take in order to have this, turn this into more of a conversation with government and with civil society, so that the benefits are seen and mining is seen as a partner? What do you three think that is the position, I guess, that the mining industry needs to take, and how can they start this dialogue to make sure that the outcome is reasonable, as Diego says is expected, for example, in Chile? How can mining make that happen?
Here in Brazil, of course, we are very concerned about to come closer to the communities. And the main point that we are working now is to guarantee to the communities that we have operational, the safety operational, and the communities participate with us. We are developing new technologies and guaranteeing the employees, guaranteeing the investment, and mainly come closer to the communities. I think this is a major point, to come closer to the communities.
I don't know if Victor or Diego would like to add.
Yeah, but let me add some idea regarding this topic. As you know, in Peru, our mining activity are located in the highlands, and definitely the highlands we have lower human development index in comparison to coastal areas. So definitely through the mining investment, we develop public infrastructure. Through mining activity, we generate local jobs, and definitely we can see the mining activity as a partner in order to reduce this gap in terms of human development index. No? And also, it's not a matter of more taxes. No, that's the point. Some politicians believe that the solution is to increase taxes. It's more than that. As if you analyze our numbers, our macroeconomic numbers are very robust, even though we face this pandemic with some difficulties. So that means that the main issue that as a country we have to resolve is how to improve the public management capabilities. And in that regard, mining activity could be a partner in order to raise that standard in public services, for example.
Okay, want me to continue the topic?
If you'd like to add to this topic, please do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, for mining for Chile is Chilean economy is very, very important. And you have some people that believe that they could increase more taxes. Of course, they could increase marginally without killing the industry. But it's very important for us to put the numbers and to make these politicians to understand how important is mining for the country. Between 2005 and 2019, it was 14.7% of taxes collection on the country, 12.9% of GDP. And if you take the induced GDP, because the money is recycled on the Chilean economy, it's more than 20%. Then our hope is that whatever is the new government next year, because we are electing a new president in December, they will need to keep mining in good health. And we believe that we can make a big contribution to the post-COVID economy recovery in the country. Then that's very important. As Flavio said, it's also very important communities, and we are working on that. Climate change. Chile is a country that is affected by climate change, and we can make a big contribution because in a way we are lucky to have sun radiation very high in the north. Then almost all the mines are switching to renewable energy contracts. The mining industry accounts for 30% of Chilean energy consumption. Then it's very important, and we have there a new opportunity. The other issue is that the Chilean mining industry has been losing productivity, mainly because drop on grades, copper grades, from 1% in 2004 to 0.67% now. And the average cash cost of copper producers in Chile is, if you take it globally, is on the third quartile, on the middle of the third quartile. That's updated figures. Then it's very important to us to keep the productivity, the competitiveness, and COVID-19 has given us a new opportunity, because it has forced us to start really incorporating innovation, not only renewable energy, but well, big data, everything that you know. And that's the way for Chilean mining to keep competitiveness, and we are working on that. And the last point is that the Chilean mining industry today is very connected to the local economy. It's not like early or last century where the mines were enclaves not related to the local economy because the local economy was not very well developed at that time. But today we have a lot of secondary effect. Even if the mining industry is capital intensive and in relative terms, we don't use too many people from country on the country if you take the percentage, but when you take the mining cluster, it's really more important in terms of jobs and quality jobs. Then all of that, we believe that whoever is the new government, they have to understand that, and they need to foster the mining investment anyway. And that's our hope. Then we are going through a difficult period, but we see that probably mid next year we should be in better waters.
Okay, well, we shall see. Well, I hope so. I wanted to just go back a little bit to the idea of optimization and new projects. Diego, at the beginning, mentioned that in Chile, at least, there is the spending on optimization continues, the spending on projects that are already underway continue, but new projects, not so much. And I wanted to ask Victor and Flavio what you are seeing in terms of new project activity in Brazil and Peru. Is this also slowing down because of uncertainty, or going ahead more strongly?
Yeah, Laura, let me start finishing an idea regarding the first topic. In the case of Peru, the total taxes paid for the mining industry is in the order of 47%, which is very important. Also, we have to take in consideration that also was said by Diego, that it's an industry with a very capital intensive. So that means that the shareholders' retribution is not big enough, as many people or politicians believe. Regarding your question, I see in the coming years the development in Peru of mining investment in medium-sized projects, not mega ones, no mega project ones, because that's our portfolio right now. In Peru, we have a portfolio of in the order of $60 billion, and 70% of this $60 billion portfolio, it's copper projects, but most of them are medium-sized projects, not mega projects. So I see that investment coming, because as was mentioned in terms of the mood, we maintain a very, from my perspective, we maintain as a country attractiveness, and because we have many significant attributes. The first one, it's our copper portfolio. Second one, it's our geological attribute as a country. And definitely the third one, which is also important to mention, it's our ecosystem. In Peru, we have an ecosystem, means that we have contractors of suppliers of goods and services, engineering firms, training entities, and finally a legal framework. So it's a very positive ecosystem, and we expect that with a new government we'll be able to discuss openly and to define this long-term strategy for mining industry as a tool, to develop the country.
Perfect. Flavio, I'd also like to ask you the same question. If you're seeing any uncertainty or impacts of the pandemic affecting new project activity in Brazil, You mentioned before that the investment pipeline is about $38 billion for the period, I believe, 2021 to 25. But if I'm not mistaken, this is actually a lot less than other 5-year or 4-year investment forecasts for Brazil. Is this affected by the issues that we're talking about, or is this for other reasons?
Laura, we believe that this strong forces the value announced for investment in 5 years of $38 billion will continue independent of pandemic. We believe also the pandemic will be in control. We are optimistic in short terms, and in various regions of the country and very types of minerals we will invest here in Brazil. And we are optimistic in relation to new projects, both in the short and the long term, even more so as the National Mining Agency and the Geological Service of Brazil are significantly expanding the offer of new areas for research and for mining in the country. Such as this hasn't been seen for decades. It indicates so that we will have new projects, we will have a new investment, and we believe that we are optimistic related at that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very well. I wanted to also ask each of you, we're seeing very high prices and healthy cash flow into the producing mining companies, as we've talked about. There are some new projects going ahead, investment is going ahead, but what I've talked about with other experts is that the cash flow is such that they have to figure out where to allocate now this cash. Where else do you see miners putting this extra cash that they're receiving from high prices at this moment? Or where, in your opinion, should that be going? More towards, seeking to create kind of financial strength for future downturns, or should mining companies be focused on precisely developing more projects, in your opinion? Also, possibly the ESG issues that we talked about and decarbonization are a good place to allocate this capital. What are you seeing in terms of the capital allocation trends?
Okay, let me start in my case. From the mining industry perspective, obviously we expect stronger financial figures. That's a reality, no? Some increase as well on shareholder retribution, but definitely more willingness to investment in exploration activities, digitalization as well. But also we have to consider that with this new environment in terms of metal prices, we see also a significant increase in tax payments, which is important for strengthening public finance. Regarding ESG, definitely it's part of the agenda of the mining industry, specifically in the case of Peru. As I said, we are located in the highlands as part of our strategy in order to have harmony, maintain a long-term good relationship. We are investing in human capital. We have to recognize that in order to reduce that gap in terms of human development index. So one way is to invest in infrastructure, which is part of our business. But also, as mining industry, we have to be able to invest in human development, no? in terms of training, in terms of education, public education. That's part of the agenda of the mining industry.
Thank you.
Okay, let me continue. In our case, I think that companies are keeping projects at the early stage alive, and they will continue doing secondary exploration and pre-feasibility studies, eventually feasibility studies, and also environmental permits that take a long time here. Then you cannot go ahead with the project if you don't have all the permits, and then all of that will continue. It's going on, and an investment decision, a big investment decision, I think that probably will be postponed until there is more clarity on the rules. I think dividends will increase because certainly we are making more money because of prices, and for two reasons. Because you need to have a capital allocation. You cannot keep the money there forever. At the same time, when you pay taxes on your profits and you pay additional taxes when you distribute dividends, then the industry has to show that when prices are high, like they are today, well, we are contributing more in taxes. Then I think that certainly they continue to invest in innovation, renewable energies, all of that many times is not big money, but certainly it helps a lot on competitiveness and productivity, and eventually in a scenario like we are living, probably you will have some opportunities. And mining companies could take some opportunities of purchasing mining claims or bodies projects and so on. Like Victor in Peru said, we don't have a big medium-sized mining companies here in Chile like in Peru they have medium-sized, and I think that there is a lot of opportunities in the country, and these medium-sized mining companies or medium-sized projects are not so exposed to the political uncertainty because they are small. Then that's a way also to develop mining during this period.
Okay. Thank you, Diego. Yeah.
Okay. We agree with Diego said related to many points of dividends will increase, investment in innovation, and so on. We see an increase in the capital allocation. As we can see in the growing cycle of the quarterly announced, published throughout 2020. And the capital allocation in project does not necessarily mean increased production. It is often related to reserve recovery, energy efficiency, new technologies, acquisition of equipment, investment in logistics. Here in Brazil, we will have a allocation of $2 billion in order to decommission the dump of the minings. So it's several new allocation of capital that will happen in the next 5 years for sure.
Yes. Yes, a very important topic, particularly in Brazil. I'd like to include a couple of questions from the people who are listening to the conversation right now. One, which is probably relevant in each of the three countries that you represent, is around the preservation and management of water. We have a listener who would like to know if this is an important part of the optimization efforts that you're seeing taking place, or if it's only mainly focused at new projects.
Yeah, the relation with water with water is very important in mining industry, particularly in the case of Peru. But as you know, right now there are many technologies that allow us to recycle water, and also in the case, again, in the case of Peru, we are investing in order to increase the reservoirs, the storage of water, in order to use this water as well to increase the productivity of agriculture activities. So there is a close relationship with water, but also there are technologies and there are good standards in order to preserve water as a part of our legacy.
Here in Brazil, Laura, we are concerned about also to reduce the consumption of water. The mining industry recover most of the water in the process, so it's not intensive in the use of water. In spite of this, we have new technologies that we are implementing in the mining in Brazil, such as produce with dry technology, not to have to minimize the use of dams and things like this. We believe that water not will be a problem, but will be a solution that the mining sector can show to the society in general.
Well, in the case of Chile, certainly water is an issue, but the mining activity consumes less than 4% of the water used in the country. Then it's not a big amount. We are a narrow country, then we are always close to the seaside, and north of Santiago now, where generally the mines are, you cannot have a new big project without using seawater, desalinated or not, because there is no availability of water anymore. And many mines have switched to desalinated water, like Escondida. Escondida now is 100% using desalinated water and pumping to 3,000 meters. And many other mines, Pelambres is also building a desalination plant, and so on. Then really, and we have improved a lot the use of water. We have good KPIs on that, and I think that we cannot be blamed by environmentalists on water issues, and I think in the medium term we will be using less and less continental water.
That's certainly the trend so far. We have a few minutes left, and a person who's listening has given us a question that might be very difficult to answer, but I thought we should try. The person says, what is the main factor? What is the main factor for mining companies now? Political, social, environmental, royalty, short-term demand, long-term demand? Is it possible to name one?
Here in Brazil, I can say very sure to you, the main concern of the Brazilian minings is to stay very, operate the minings in the ESG system, and to provide confidence to the communities that we have operational safety. That's the point.
Okay.
In our case, clearly is political and legal uncertainty, and we hope that will last for another 12 months, and that's it. In all the other issues, we have been working hard and making a lot of progress. ESG, climate change, communities, all the other things we can manage. But of course, we cannot manage political and legal uncertainty.
Right.
In the case of Peru, obviously I am part of the industry, but when you consider the potential of our country developing all our mining portfolio, right now it's a matter of dialogue. We have to openly dialogue between all the members of our Peruvian society in order to clearly trying to define a long-term perspective, a long-term strategy in order to develop our country. In that regards, I am very, very, very positive in terms that at the end will we be able to develop our country using mining industry as a tool very well developed with inclusive policies and with high standard in terms of environmental aspects.
Okay.
It's a matter of dialogue. It's a matter of dialogue.
Perfect. Well, I wanted to thank each one of you once again, Flavio, Victor, and Diego, for the conversation today. It's been a real pleasure. And I'll pass back to Cesar now to close the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you. It has been a very interesting presentation and discussion. The survey report with the results of the survey will be published today. And we invite, of course, all BNamericas subscribers to read it and to download their copies. And if you're not a BNamericas subscriber, please visit bnamericas.com and take a look at our great content. Thank you very much. Have a nice week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.